A local motel will be forced to close its doors. Details from this week's Board of Health meeting on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Wednesday, April 15th, 2015. I'm Sarah Mantle. Craigville Motel will be forced to close. The motel has been under fire due to illegal long-term tenants and several health and safety code violations. The board in January had given the motel 3 months to clean up its act, but long-term tenants remained. Board Chair Dr. Wade Miller says the biggest issue of concern was in fact those long-term tenants.
Again, looking at this, I go back to what I said at the last meeting. To me, these problems are here because so many of your tenants are long-term people, and you're not in there day to day.
Right.
You know, we shouldn't be finding these kind of problems. And I agree. The reason you're not seeing them is because you're not in those units.
Right.
So if you got back to what you're supposed to be doing, which is transient, since you're a motel,
right.
We wouldn't be having most of these issues. So the next step of the problem that I see is the fact that we still have 14 or more long-term tenants there.
I have a list of the ones that have moved out since February, January. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 families have moved out.
And
There's
how,
a couple more to go.
And how many have moved in since January? They've been there for more than 30 days. How many people have moved in since January that have been there for more than 30 days?
Anytime anybody calls to rent a room right now, she tells them right up front, I do not rent long-term.
My question is,
how many people, I don't know how long, if they've been gone for a month.
how many people have come in since our meeting when we made it very clear?
None.
That
None I can say.
there have been nobody, you're telling me that nobody's been,
People have come in and stayed for a week,
Week or 2
2
weeks
weeks.
or 3 weeks
A
top.
girl came in the other day, stayed for 2 days, and then they had to get, she was going to stay for a week, but she turned out to be someone that wasn't reputable.
We don't-
And the cops came and got her out of there.
We don't,
Okay.
I don't rent more than 3 weeks now, 3 or top 4. Since we had the meeting.
so your statement to this board right now is that there's nobody that's come in to the motel since the beginning of, since our January meeting that's been there for longer than 30 days.
Yes. This girl here came in, and she asked to stay for a week. She was told she could not stay any longer than a week, any more than a week. She said, I just want to stay. But she's been here for, I don't know, you can ask her, right? And she's trying to get a place to live right now. She come in off the highway. Nobody knew her. She didn't come in because she heard anybody. She come in off the highway from Colorado with her 2 kids looking for a place to stay. And Tara said, I'll help you.
So
she
that-
just finally got a job. Now she's going to get an apartment, and she's going to be on her way.
So that's the only person that's according to you, that's come in since January, that's been there for more than 30 days?
Yeah, as far as I know, yes.
Property manager Charles Mayo suggested the motel apply for another license that would allow longer-term stays. Building inspector Paul Roma and town attorney Charles McLaughlin discussed the state building code and what requirements would need to be met to allow longer-term stays.
The Commonwealth regulations, the building code, has several different residential use groups. One is R1, which the unit presently is. It's a motel. By definition.
Can I ask who you
Oh, I'm a building inspector,
Okay.
and I'm here in Tom Perry's place. He was not able to make it.
Okay.
And so we have an R1 use group, which is what you presently are. That's what you're
Zoned for.
licensed for. That requires that any and all guests stay less than 30 days. Once they exceed that, then you're in violation of your license.
Okay. And now, is this multiple? Is this zoned? It's zoning, right? R1
No,
zone.
no. This is use group and
So
occupancy
it's
from the
multiple use
building
groups
code.
for that property.
From the building code.
Mr. Mayo, it might be helpful if I pose a couple of questions. We can just try and walk you through it. And you were referencing this R1 use group has a limit of 30-day occupancy, is that right?
Yes.
And moving beyond, if someone is occupying a unit or beyond 30 days, i.e. 31 days or more, does it transition into some other use group?
There needs to be a transition applied for from an R1 use group to an R2 use group.
What are the hallmarks of an R2 use group?
An R2 use group is going to have dwelling units in it. It is going to allow an extended period of time for a stay. There's no set limit on it. If a person wanted to live there for quite a long time, that would be perfectly fine.
With respect to dwelling units, does the state building code address minimum square footage issues that are mandated for something in an R2 use group?
Yes, in the building code, there are definitions, number one, for a dwelling unit, for a sleeping unit, and they all have different requirements. A dwelling unit, I'm going to have to look this up because I'm not that familiar with the square footage requirements, but excuse me, a dwelling, an efficiency dwelling unit, I'm just going to read, shall have at least 220 square feet of floor area, with an additional 100 square feet for any occupant number over 2. So in other words, if you had 2 people living in a room in a dwelling unit, they would need at least 220 square feet. If there are 3 people there, and another 100 square feet needs to be added.
All right. And again, just to be clear, a dwelling unit is described as something having functioning areas for sleeping, for sanitation, for food preparation. Anything else?
I'm going to read from the definition now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it is a single unit providing complete independent living facilities for one or more persons, including permanent provisions for living, sleeping, eating, cooking, and sanitation.
All right. And having in mind the square footages that you were just talking about, would you just recap then for us?
In order to be a dwelling unit,
Yep.
there has to be a minimum of 220 square feet,
All right.
and it needs to provide independent living.
Okay. And and that is for maximum, at 220, it's for maximum of how many occupants?
2 people.
All right.
Current tenant Stacy Sinkowski says without the Craigville Motel, she wouldn't have anywhere to go and urged the board to allow the motel to remain
As
open.
you have learned, I did arrive about 35, 40 days ago. I drove from Colorado, and I didn't realize it would be such a hard thing to find a pet-friendly home. I'm just very grateful for Miss Tara. Alls I know, I went through all my tax refund between 3 hotels, and if it wasn't for her putting a roof over my head, which she did tell me the room is not even in the best condition, and she bent over backwards to put Orient rugs down, swapping out different appliances to make sure they worked. She really went above and beyond to help me. And it was supposed to be, I just need a few days, I just need a few days, and it's turned into what it is. And I will tell you, I don't know about your history here, but I do know that this lady and her husband, it's their heart that is really, she can't throw people out. She can't say no. She hasn't said no to me, and it's putting her in jeopardy. And this is what I wanted to say. The man and the daughter, I have bent over backwards, and he has no transportation. And I'm bending over backwards to bring him to the stores and everywhere he needs to go. And once again, everybody has their sad story, and this is what this woman is bombarded with. And I was just asking for mercy, because if I was put in that situation, I don't know what I would do. You know, it's hard to just put people out. But she has done so much for me, and if it wasn't for her and her husband, I don't even know where I'd be right now. And that's all I wanted to say.
After much discussion, the board voted unanimously not to renew the motel's license. Current tenants must vacate by June 30th, and no new customers are allowed. The Housing Assistance Corporation is working with tenants to help them find long-term homes. Tenants were also encouraged to apply for financial assistance from the town's Lombard Trust that was set up in order to help residents of the town of Barnstable that are in need. Well, be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 7 a.m. On tomorrow's show, we will chat with Town Council President Jessica Rapp-Grassetti about what's on this week's Town Council agenda. We'll also chat with Airport Manager Bud Brialt, plus we'll have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mantle.